forget about all the self-help books. So literally go burn them, go get this one book and read it and read it and read it and read it and tab it up and tab it up. How do we build character? What is it? What is this thing, character, and why do we care about it? Welcome to DeltaPod. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how can we move towards high performance. In our last episode, we spoke about what is performance and high performance, and we spoke about the performance spaces model. So if you haven't listened to that, it's kind of a requisite for this. If you want the full effect, then perhaps jump back an episode and listen to that. The hypothesis here is that there is no formula to achieve high performance, or higher performance as we coined last time. But there are a number of things we can do that enable us to move towards it. Okay, so I can't give you 2 + 2 = high performance, but there's a number of enablers that I think, and it's not just me, but having run this program, like I said, for the last 4 or 5 years, people have pulled us apart, they've kind of added a few bits and pieces, but actually, I think this is fairly holistic. What we're going to talk about now is the enablers of high performance. What can enable us to move towards that? So in our last episode, we spoke about the 3 performance spaces. There's high performance, there's average performance, and we said that's quite a high bar still. And then there's the kind of low performance, the low effort and low intention space. And actually, we probably bounce between the low intention, low effort space and average performance most of the time. And occasionally, 5% of the time, think about trying to achieve high performance. But perhaps most of the time, we're thinking just performing to the standard is high performance. Whereas I would say actually high performance is a little bit more than that. High performance as a concept is an objective thing in the future. It's quite a hard thing to kind of pin down, or rather it's quite a hard thing to think about and really use right now. Whereas the mindset, the concept of higher performance, so the ER and on the end of high, that ER is pivotal in changing our mindset. Okay, and we're looking for a mindset here. We're not looking for an objective measure, which is in our future. So the mindset of higher performance means that anyone can do it at any given time. Right now, you could switch into a higher performance. I'll do a little bit more. That pushes me through the pain threshold. I'll do a little bit more. If you're super ill and you're really struggling just to get out of bed, well, what does a little bit more look like for you, right? It's subjective. Higher performance, the mindset of that is really applicable to all of us. Whereas high performance is quite a subjective thing. And because it's subjective, right, there's a number of things we're going to need to do if we want to achieve high performance, right, the subjective thing over here, then there are a number of these enablers can help us do that. But actually, when we talk about the mindset of higher performance, doing a little bit more, these enablers will appear as well, right? So there's 6 enablers. And I'm just going to talk through them. I'm not going to explain each one. I'm going to try and do a podcast on each one of these separately. But I'm going to talk through them. So you've got them. They're in the blog. I'm basically reading from the blog right now. But in no particular order, those 6 enablers of high performance are the disciplines of discipline. Did you know there's 4 disciplines that make up discipline? Focus, the ability to build focus, to apply it to specific things. Vulnerability, our ability to be vulnerable, to look at ourselves, to be self-aware and say, actually, in this space, I could be a little bit better here. Coaching concepts. And ultimately what coaching is the ability to work on something, to take ourselves out of the hamster wheel and to view it from a third-party position, to work on it. In the military, it's called a condor moment. My ability to pull myself out of the situation, look down upon the situation and say, right, should I go left or right flanking type decision. Intentionality. And within that is planning and kind of setting goals and that kind of stuff. And then finally, and for me, this is almost like the secret sauce to all of this, is character and grit. And I did a whole film around this where I went and dug a hole for 24 hours. And the challenge for the film was, how do we build character? What is it? What is this thing, character? And why do we care about it? And I think character and grit, the ability to move forward through pain and discomfort, will almost be like the superpower that can move us through the high performance threshold that we spoke about last time. I'm just going to tell a few little things which help bring this to life. And I'm not going to go to every single one, But so the disciplines of discipline, there are 4. The first one we all kind of accept is this is what discipline is, forgetting the other 3. So delaying gratification. The interesting thing about that is if you persistently and always delay gratification, then you have no gratification. Okay, so if you're relying upon that gratification to drive you forward, I'm being disciplined, I'm delaying gratification, that's all well and good, okay? But at some point, you've got to let yourself eat the donut. Whereas there's another level here where you could get to the point where I just don't want to eat donut. The donut doesn't exist. It's not part of my diet anymore, right? And it's an interesting one. You've now transcended into this new space of I don't eat donuts, right? Or for me, I love the 75 Hard program by Andy Frisella. I think I'm on day 52. One of the things it's really teaching me is building a new set of standards in my life. And so the new standards are don't eat donuts. I have a massive sweet tooth. I love going for a coffee and a little bit of a baked good. But I don't do it anymore. I'll have a coffee, yeah, but I'm not going to have the extra 400 calories, the sugar hit, which I don't need. The next discipline of discipline is acceptance of responsibility. Jocko Willink talks about this all the time. Extreme ownership, acceptance of responsibility. Even the stuff that you think is not your responsibility, that was his responsibility. Leadership, hierarchies, they rob us of this acceptance of responsibility, right? What's really interesting here is when you're in a hierarchical situation and you're not the leader, you will subconsciously devolve ownership for the situation, the outcome, or a bit of your responsibility to the leader. Right? If something goes wrong, it wasn't on you, it was on the leader. Okay, and that's where hierarchies can actually be quite a toxic way of enforcing leadership. And actually, they can't really force leadership. And there's a whole other episode there, but ultimately, leadership is an emotion in the follower. It's not a role or a position. Third discipline, dedication to truth or reality, or / reality. This is an interesting one because we're all in our own heads all the time, right? The person we talk to the most is ourselves. And sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing. Sometimes we might be in a really negative situation and we need to tell ourselves some positives, some truths, do our gratitude practices and all that good stuff. Other times, the story we're telling ourselves is not linked to reality. Okay, so this is all about having a discipline to acknowledge the objective nature of reality. And in high performance space, this is vital, right? Whatever your bar is, whatever your setting is high performance in your domain, say you want to run, say you're like in your local running club, or the high performers are all running 5K in less than 17 minutes. Well, there you go. That's your objective measure. If you run a 17-minute 5-second at 5K, are you a high performer? No, because you're short by 5 seconds. That's dedication to reality. A little story from my life. Ran London Marathon with a 42-kilogram sandbag. The goal I set myself was to do it in under 7 hours. I did it in 7 hours, 15 minutes, 34 seconds. So did I hit my goal? No, I didn't. I was 15 minutes short. And is that a tough truth to bear? Yes, it is. That's why it's a discipline, right? I don't want to acknowledge it, but actually, if I want to achieve my goal, I need to go back and do it again. But it was 7 hours of pain. Well, that's the discipline in this. And the last one is balancing. And I spoke a bit about this in the what is high performance piece, but this is balancing. If I'm going at high performance and I want to go to this high performance space, I'm going to get concentrated. I'm going to get focused. I need to build that focus, and that's the next enabler. But it also means I can be a bit salty, right? The more concentrated you are, I imagine a cordial. If I just drink a load of blackcurrant cordial without diluting it, it's going to be really sweet and not going to be very tasty. It's going to be a bit bitter, right? I'm not going to like it. I'm going to put a funny face. That's what you're like in a social scene, right? If you're being committed to a certain goal, then that's what you're going to be like. That's your social life, right? You're going to be a bit salty, a bit prickly around other people because you're so focusing on one thing. And so balancing is knowing when to do that, when to step into that space to be a bit imbalanced, and when to balance it out with, actually, you know what? I will have that beer. I will have that glass of wine. I will let my hair down a little bit and have a later night, right? And so it's that balancing. And for me, there's a few key balancing things we all need to trade off all the time. Authenticity versus love. I think the best way to do this is kind of using crass language, but there's always these people who say, I'm just being my authentic self. But your authentic self is really abrasive and a bit of an arsehole, well, that's okay, but you need to temper that with love for others, which is to put others before yourself, or empathy, right? So balancing out your truest self, I'm just being me and letting my light shine, versus actually love for others and considering other people's views, opinions, and what is best for the group. And there's a whole thing around teamwork there, and actually it's not about you, it's about the team. Submission to the team is submitting your own ego and your own authenticity sometimes. Another balancing dilemma is yes versus no. Yes, I want to eat the donut. Or should I say, no, I don't want to eat donut, or no, I don't eat donuts. Right, it's the yes versus no. For me, I think of the word as no as a strategic word, right? If I say no, if someone says no to me, it means they've got a strategy. They're like, actually, I'm saying no because I know that I need to get to X, Y, Z. I need to go and do these things. But it's quite easy to say yes. It's like the unthinking answer is yes, but no has a bit of thought behind it. And then there's the tactical versus strategic, which is kind of balanced to all of those there. But what do I want right now versus what's going to move me towards my strategic goals? And having strategy, the art of strategy, is it informs what you do now, right? So if I have a strategy, if you imagine looking at the horizon, my strategy should tell me where to go once I'm beyond the horizon. I can't see the terrain. I don't know what's going to happen beyond the horizon. But strategy tells me that and actually informs what I do now so that I can get to the correct place on the horizon. So the disciplines of discipline. Now, they're not mine. They're taken from a book called The Road Less Travelled by a guy called Scott M. Peck. Super ninja psychologist. Very, very, very interesting book. Like, hands down, like, forget about all the self-help books. Literally go burn them. Go get this one book and read it and read it and read it and read it and tab it up and tab it up. And I'll go get mine. I'll show you mine. Back in. Right. Read it. The Road Less Travelled, M. Scott Peck. This is an older version. I think there's a newer edition now. He also defines what is love in this, which is flipping punchy. It's pretty ambitious as well. Good book. The next enablers I want to talk about, and I'm not going to talk about all of them, is focus, right? And I want to tell you a story that focus is so important, but I want you to think of it like this. Perhaps the only time in your life you're properly focused right now is when you go to the cinema. So let's dissect that. When you go to the cinema or the movie theatre, depending on what you want to call it and where you are, which side of the Atlantic you are, you plan it, right? I'm going to go to the cinema. I'm going to book my tickets. I'm going to turn up. I don't just turn up on time. I turn up well before. I get my popcorn. I get my drink. I might use a toilet. I then get shown through to the correct screen. I get in. I'm there nice and early normally, and I'll watch a few adverts. It's kind of warming up to me. Lets me eat my popcorn, right? And then as the film starts to come up, they start to warm up my focus, okay, at this point. So what happens? The first stage is the lights dim a little bit, and then they're like, turn your phone off. And there's all this kind of dramatic bit about turning your phone off and respecting others and focusing in and enjoying it. And then as the film starts, as the initial credits start to roll, what happens? The screen broadens a little bit, the lights fully dim, and what you may not notice is the temperature drops a little bit, as well as the sound going up. So you are literally, the environment is curated, it's sucking you into focus on this film. You then focus, you're then focusing for 2 hours, hour and a half on this film and the storyline and the plot and the theatre of it all. It then ends. You then walk out and go, you don't just walk straight home and forget about it. You walk out with whoever you're there with, or perhaps you're there by yourself. I love going to cinema by myself. It's great. You then walk out, you get a bit of food. If you're with your mates, you go to Nando's and you talk about the film. What was your favourite bit? What do you think about this? Would you go see it again? And you might tell people on social media what happened. You talk about it for a little bit. You come down, you break your focus. And so there's this 3 components to focus. There's the opening up, there's the preparation for it, there's the deep focus, and that's environmental as well as psychological. I'm preparing my environment for the task at hand, but also my mindset. And then when I've done my focus for my period of time, and you might time box it, you might not, you then walk away. You're like, right, and I'm going to go and reflect upon what I did, and I'm going to break focus. So next time you have to focus on something, think about the cinema analogy of, oh, I'm going to the cinema, well, I need to book it in. Well, where am I booking in that focus time tomorrow in my day? What are the key things I need to focus on versus what shouldn't I focus on, or what can't I focus on? Because the interesting question here is, can I focus for 9 hours a day I would think the short answer is no, you can't. So what are the key things you should focus on tomorrow? And that kind of leads into another element of focus, which I won't go into, is about how you prioritize. And there's lots of different ways to prioritize. I like the Eisenhower prioritization matrix. I think it's very useful and actually makes you intentional. But how you do it is up to you. And like I said, this is expanded on a little bit more in the blog. So that's focus. Use the cinema analogy to think about how will I build focus and break focus at specific times during the day. Intentionality is key, right? Can I achieve high performance without having any form of intention? If I don't intend to achieve high performance, can I achieve it? And I would say it's very difficult to. And actually, when you get there, you don't realise you're there. And there's this whole piece around building desire towards goals. So what are the goals? How specific and measurable are they? Will build your intention. Like, have you written it down and told people about it? That's building your intention. So when I did London Marathon with the sandbag, I told a couple of mates, I got a few people involved, and they were there helping me build that goal, helping me build that desire. I think that intentionality is a core component. It enables you, almost sets out the train tracks for you to move towards high performance. There's quite a bit in this, and in the blog it will expand a little bit more, and there's a danger of overload. And you might think, actually, it's all a bit intense. I don't really want to perform that high. Well, this is the brutal truth of high performance, right? It's going to be a little bit hard. It's going to be a little bit tricky. And actually taking the time to digest what these enablers mean to you, to read the blog, to ask me questions, to go and research what it is how do you build habits, to watch the film around character and grit. All those things are building you up to enabling you to move towards high performance. You're committing to that. You're taking it more seriously. So there's an objective brutality to high performance. You're either running the sub 17 minute 5 kilometers, or you're running 17 minutes 5 seconds. And so there is an objective nature to this. And so just remember, there is a difference between the average performer, the almost, and then the high performer, the high performance space. There's a threshold between those two spaces, and that threshold will have pain. It requires a bit of pain. You're going to be exposed to new things, but pushing through it, going a little bit more, applying some discretionary effort, and using these enablers will hopefully give you a bit more of a framework to move towards it and move into it. So hopefully that will make sense. There's a lot here, and I'm going to try and unpack gradually various bits and pieces of those enablers as we move forward with these podcasts. But I'd love to know your thoughts. Please comment on the blog or comment wherever you see this. And I'd love you to share it with people. Please do share it, get other people's views on it. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much.